of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Monday, November 25th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Mike Elk, founder of the Payday Report, on the recent arrests of former Brazilian President Bolsonaro and the entire crew who attempted to stage a coup a couple of years ago. It's what a functioning country does. Then we'll be talking to Jacob Silverman, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. Also, co-author of the AM Quickie newsletter. And he'll be talking to us about Trump's crypto cabinet and maybe like just the crypto money in general, which has taken over a big chunk of our politics. Meanwhile, Israel close to agreeing to a ceasefire with Lebanon as it sanctions Haaretz newspaper for criticizing its government. You know, because they're the only democracy in the Middle East. And if you don't agree, you'll be subject to government censorship. Meanwhile, Biden administration forced to close agency doors to the Trump transition team because that same transition team refuses to do mandated disclosure of transition donors. Trump appoints hedge fund billionaire, Treasury Secretary, and Russell Vought. Remember that guy? We just spoke to, just did a big in-depth about him. What, 2 weeks ago, was it? I can't remember. Project 2025 architect, renominated for the Office of Management and Budget. Trump picks Republican Representative Chavez Dramer, head of labor. She has a pro-union record, or at least she did have a pro-union record. And the alpha males are back. Seb Gorka, heading to the White House as a deputy assistant to president and senior director for counterterrorism. Trump appoints a slew of anti-vaxxers to medical policy positions. Republicans are looking to make vast, undermining changes to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Trump will supposedly banish trans troops in the military on day one in an effort to save women's sports, apparently. And lastly, Trump plans to fire Jack Smith's team and investigate the investigators. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if it's feeling like 2020, well, stick around. Suspect it's going to be a lot worse. With that said, time for the show.
Yeah. Fun day.
Gotta find the real anti-democracy people around here.
I realize that may not have sold you tuning in for the first time of the week.
That's all right. We're not trying to sell anything.
Emma Vigeland. Well, it'd be nice to at least sugarcoat it a little bit, right. Emma.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, there's not a ton to be excited about with this upcoming Trump administration, but there will be some funny moments. I mean, it's a total clown car, right? So we can sell that to folks.
It will be.
People look at train wrecks.
There will be a clown car aspect to this, no doubt. And there is a tremendous amount of hubris associated with these people. But you got people like Russell Vought, who was who did we interview about Russell Vought? He was the former head of the Office of Management and Budget under Trump 1. He's been spending 4 years at the Heritage Foundation or aligned to it, basically working out plans for Project 2025.
It was Andy Kroll and Molly Redden at
Oh, right,
Republica,
yes.
yeah.
And they did a deep dive into this guy. He's a very dangerous guy. Incidentally, also, huge Christian nationalist. I mean, one of the things I think that is unclear, at least as far as I can tell in the media, is that Christian nationalism runs through this this cabinet in a way that is both submerged and I think perhaps, the one thing they can all agree on. Rubio's, I think, a member of the Family, which is this sort of like semi-secret Christian organization. Right. I mean, I even think Clinton was too. Hillary Clinton, or at least she attended some of it. And but Pete Hegseth, as you know, is one of those Christian nationalists who will tattoo his entire chest about it.
Christian crusade themed tattoos all over his body associated with white nationalist groups, but also clearly Christian in their meaning.
Yeah, what were the Crusades? Were those what were those about ethnically?
But I mean, at least we're not involved in like the region where there's a lot of strife, where people use religion as pretext for violence. So, I mean, having him as defense secretary sounds pretty bad, I gotta say.
But there's going to be a clown car element to this, but there's also going to be a much more virulent, dangerous part to it. And we'll talk a little bit about this story. The things like this are good, because it's nice to see a Democratic administration sort of like at least take Trump, the danger he presents this country, seriously. In action, not just rhetorically, but they can't get into the agencies because they haven't signed any of the disclosure forms. There's actually 3 memorandum of understanding that they're supposed to sign. They haven't signed it. And so the agencies don't really have the authority to say, come on in and look at the books, come on in and look at intelligence files, come on in and look at any of this. And it is going to inhibit the Trump administration. They don't think it will, but I suspect it might. But we will talk more about that later. In the meantime, let's just go to Lindsey Graham, who has some very strong thoughts about the ICC. You'll recall earlier this week, I think it was, or last week, I should say, the ICC came back with arrest warrants for both Netanyahu and Gallant in Israel. And I think one remaining Hamas official,
right,
who remains alive. The Karim Kim is that his name? The Karim Khan, the prosecutor, again, and we read this at the time, was that he was seeking these arrest warrants. He was Israel's choice to replace the other prosecutor, and they've intimidated both of them. Apparently, Karim Khan did not behave in the way that the Israelis wanted him to, or maybe he was just, overwhelmed by the evidence. Now, let's also be clear. Khan was encouraged to issue these arrest warrants by I think it was a former Israeli judge who was also, I think, a Holocaust survivor.
Yes, I saw that as well. He's 94 years old, something like that.
And I have it here somewhere. But nevertheless, we in the United States do not are not subscribed essentially to the ICC jurisdiction, but yet, and I really appreciate Lindsey Graham here, he is saying, well, maybe we should use our muscle because just because we're not subscribed, we should at the very least encourage those who are. Wouldn't you think, he says?
There's an arrest warrant for Putin by the ICC for kidnapping children in Ukraine and taking them to Russia. Is that pretty much it, right?
Yep.
If Putin came to the United States for whatever reason, would we turn him over to the ICC?
Well, I can't get ahead of that because obviously I have to look at the laws and rules. As you know, we're not actually a party to the ICC, so I don't want to engage in that hypothetical. But
I would encourage you that if he came here, we should turn him over.
Now, I don't think he has any plans to travel here soon.
Yeah. Well, would you encourage our European allies to turn him over?
I think that anyone who is a party to the court and has obligations should fulfill their obligations.
Okay.
All right, that seems fair. Obviously, if you're a party to the court, you should fulfill your obligations. I'm glad that Lindsey Graham is taking that position. Oh, but wait, that was all the way back, and this was a totally different world then. I don't know if you remember this, 2023. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking the second half of 2023. I'm talking the first quarter of 2023, March of 2023. When, you know, that's almost, I can't even count how many months that is, 20 months ago, maybe 16, because things have obviously radically changed. Here's Lindsey Graham on Fox just on Friday.
This is a direct threat to the state of Israel. There have been more resolutions condemning Israel in the UN than every other nation, all the nations combined. It's the anti-Semitic body, and this court is trying to literally put in jail the Prime Minister of Israel, the Defense Minister, for defending itself against multiple terrorist organizations. What will I do? If you are going to help the ICC as a nation enforce their arrest warrant against Bibi and Gallant, the former defense minister, I will put sanctions on you as a nation. You're going to have to pick the rogue ICC versus America. I'm working with Tom Cotton to have legislation passed as soon as we can to sanction any country that aids and abets the arrest of any politician in Israel. What they're doing in Israel is trying to prevent a second Holocaust. So to any ally, Canada, Britain, Germany, France, if you try to help the ICC, we're going to sanction you.
Jesus. I'd like to sanction whoever did Lindsey's makeup job for that appearance, because he looks like he has a bunch of SPF on his face. Looks like crap. Piece of garbage. But he'll say yes to any media.
Now, let's be clear that while Graham is talking about passing legislation to sanction the ICC, Joe Biden was on the phone with Macron over the weekend saying, you know, why are you doing this? And Macron was like, well, because I'm a party to the ICC. And it's my obligations. And remember that whole mumbo jumbo about international rules-based order? Right. You effed that up, didn't you?
He was also essentially accusing Macron of not being able to be a neutral party in the negotiations, because I guess they're included as well in some of the ceasefire talks. It's like, you want to look in the mirror, Joe, about who can and cannot be a neutral party? Because he was saying, insane. Like, the fact that you would, abide by the ICC obligations means he's inherently biased. I mean, Macron must be anti-Semitic too, is what I'm hearing.
But the ICC obligations require him to arrest also leadership from Hamas.
I don't think that the general, American politician can understand the idea of really meaning what they say when they abide by international law. I guess we're going to be sanctioning Canada. Are we going to be sanctioning Mexico? Two really important partners of ours from the North and the South. Claudia Sheinbaum, the first female president of Mexico, also a Jewish woman, supports Palestine, wears a keffiyeh. Should we be sanctioning them as well.
She's nominally Jewish.
Yeah, apparently.
Isn't that the saying for all the Pope of the Jews out there?
That was
They're
the
nominally Jewish.
I would say if you're trying to run a campaign on how could you vote for the guy who did falsified some financial documents while you're doing this, it doesn't really land the same way.
No.
No.
That's that. I mean, at least, I guess, thank goodness we have Lindsey Graham on.
And I'm just glad that Netanyahu can't vacation everywhere he wants to go now. I mean, there's some...
Well, did we talk about the Yoav Gallant thing? They're bringing him straight here just to show that actually we're not going to arrest any of these people. Bringing him to the United States, he's going to make a visit, and he's not even actually involved in war planning, but just come visit to show that middle finger to the ICC. It's heinous, and it's international law. Yeah, I had never seen it.
I'm in favor of Canada intercepting the airplane.
Please,
not letting him fly.
The one
land
thing,
in yeah.
The one
didn't
thing
they do that with?
Yeah.
Didn't we do that with?
Well, Erdogan had that weird thing with the plane, but that was like a sort of a coup thing. But I can't remember who. Yeah, there's another thing. Central American leader, I think.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah,
all right, while you think about this, just the one thing I want people to watch out for is if Netanyahu becomes, down the line, such a liability for the rest of the Israeli leadership, that may be the one thing where he actually could get turned over to the ICC. If they finally find him to be like too unpalatable and they want a Gallant or someone who has a more centrist veneer to take over the Israeli government. I still think that's a long shot, but that's the more likely situation than him, I'm going to go to Italy anyway for my vacation and not get arrested.
It was Assange. Didn't we intercept Assange's plane? That's what it was.
Okay.
All right. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Mike Elk. He's the founder of the Payday Report. He's done some reporting down in Brazil, and he's written up what's been going on there over the past couple of days, weeks, I guess, in terms of arresting people who were involved in the planning of a coup and assassination attempts. And then later we'll be talking to our very own Jacob Silverman, writer at the AM Quickie, and of course, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency and Casino Capitalism, the Golden Age of Fraud, on what else? Donald Trump economics team. First, word from our sponsor. If foundational health was a sport, you would want Ritual on your team. I have Ritual. They make Essential for Men. It's a multivitamin based solely on science and designed to help fill common nutrient gaps in the diet with 10 key nutrients. The big one for me, the big problem I've always had was vitamin D. And for years, my doctor was like, you got to, I tell you this every year, you've got to start taking more vitamin D because you never go outside and you don't get enough sun. And there's all sorts of health problems, particularly as you age, with a deficit of vitamin D. And I don't know if it was like 2 or 3 years ago now, I started taking Ritual. The problem I would have was I would leave the doctor's office. I would go buy a multivitamin with the proper amount of vitamin D. I would take it until that bottle ran out, and then I forgot. And one other thing that I think Ritual does that makes it easy too is that they are gentle on an empty stomach. So I didn't have to I got to remember to take my multivitamin, but wait, I need to eat first, and then I forget. So now I see the bottle, I leave it on my counter, I take it when I see it, and it also now, when you run out, before you run out, you get another bottle is already sent to you. Essential for Men contains 10 key nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules per day, designed to dissolve later in the small intestine, an optimal place to absorb nutrients, apparently. Like I say, easy on the stomach. And the thing that I also like about Ritual, it works with world-class certification bodies. They validate their products. Their multivitamins are vegan. They're non-GMO project verified. They are gluten and major allergen free. And this is the big thing. They're made traceable. So you can actually see where the ingredients of your multivitamin comes from, like literally where they're sourced. Ritual also uses scientific tools to select carbon packaging, prioritize sustainability sourced ingredients, and set ambitious climate goals. Ritual is a female-founded B Corp, meaning they're holding themselves accountable to not just their company's financial health, but the health of our people and our planet. Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company you can actually trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/majority. Start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/majority for 25% off. Also, sponsoring the program today, they've got a big Black Friday sale. And what's great about this Black Friday sale is that you don't have to go to a store and have people having to work there the day after Thanksgiving, or even worse. People are working. We're working on Thanksgiving, but are we done that? Have we finished that thing for the most part? Like where you don't have like big box stores opening up and forcing their folks. Regardless,
yeah,
it's getting a little cold out. It's the so-called stick season. As we wind down 2024, you deserve to rest and recharge. I definitely do.
Yeah, you do.
Thankfully, one of our favorite sponsors can help with that. Folks over at Sunset Lake have kicked off their Black Friday sale. Right now, you can save 30%. That's nearly 1/3 if you don't know how to do math. When you head to sunsetlakesabade.com, use the code Friday. They got everything you need to chill out, enjoy your holiday season. Tinctures, gummies, topicals, even products for your pets. I don't have any right now, but I go between the Calm and the Focus, basically. That's basically keeping me over the course of the day. They got Sebede, a calming mushroom focus, calming gummies, and then they have a focus version, and I just alternate between those two. But at night, it's the good night oil for me. But you might want their smokables, you might want their fudge, their coffee. Their lotions have been great for dry skin because we're now headed into that season, at least for me. Their products are great, pesticide-free, integrated pest management they use in their farming, regenerative farming practices. They're great business, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee-owned. They're huge movement partners. They've given thousands of dollars to strike relief funds and food pantries and refugee resettlement, Planned Parenthood, and carceral reform. I mean, just all around great company, great products, and now a great sale. Head over to sunsetlakesabade.com. Use the code Friday to save 30% off. See their site for terms and conditions. All right, quick break. When we come back, Mike Elk. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Joining us now, Mike Elk, founder of the Payday Report. Full disclosure, I am a, what do you call it, a member or supporter of the Payday Report.
You're a paid subscriber.
I'm a paid subscriber of the Payday Report. I have been for quite a while. It's great. And it keeps us informed about what's going on with labor. But you've done some reporting down in Brazil. And tell us a little bit about the work you've done down there, Mike.
Yeah, well, I actually went to college there 20 years ago. I did about 3 semesters there. And my host family adopted me, and I've been going back and forth for about 20 years, and I've lived there for various, stretches over the years. And what's happening is, I covered the 2022 presidential election there when Lula beat Bolsonaro narrowly by about 2 points. And much like what happened in January 6th, they had January 8th in Brazil, where a bunch of people attacked the Congress, right, in a similar sort of fashion to what happened at the U.S. Capitol. In fact, they mirrored it. They studied it. But what we didn't know until last week was that there was also an active assassination plot against Lula, not just by random right-wingers, but now Jair Bolsonaro, the former president of Brazil, the fascist former president of Brazil, has been indicted for plotting to assassinate Lula, along with his vice presidential pick, Walter Braga Neto, who was the Minister of the Defense at the time, but also running as Bolsonaro's vice presidential pick, the head of his intelligence agency, Heleno Augusto, the head of the PL, which is basically the Brazilian equivalent of the Republican Party, and as well as another top 35 aides, generals, admirals, colonels, etc. So the top infrastructure of Bolsonaro's allies has been pretty much decapitated, which is why this story isn't getting more attention in the U.S. I mean, imagine if Trump, J.D. Vance, and the head of the RNC were all arrested for plotting to assassinate Biden. That would be a huge story. But
in that scenario, don't you think the right thing to do would be to turn the page and bring the country together?
Well, maybe for some folks, I don't know. If someone tried to assassinate me, I'd try to go after them. But, whatever floats your boat, right? Some folks are different on these sort of things. But what's really interesting here is that it wasn't the Lula administration that ordered the investigation into this crackdown. The Brazilian Supreme Court has the Supreme Tribunal Federal, has an election overseeing commission. And the head of it is a guy by the name of Alexandre Guimarães, who's a Brazilian Supreme Court justice. Now, he was appointed by Michael Timor back in 2017. Timor was actually a center-right candidate who was put in by the Congress after they illegally impeached Dilma, who was the protege of Lula. And Guimarães, like an Earl Warren type, has gotten on the Supreme Court and all of a sudden found religion and become a good guy, which is interesting on lots of levels. And he actually has done a number of things where he's gone after big institutions, including kicking Twitter off the internet in Brazil for about 7 weeks until they cleaned up their act on misinformation. So Guimarães, not the Lula administration, Guimarães is totally independent as part of the Supreme Court, investigated this and found it. And the way that we got this guy to snitch, who gave all the details, was the top military aide to Bolsonaro, a guy by the name of Murillo Cid, who was lieutenant colonel. Murillo Cid got in trouble for a couple minor things. One, Bolsonaro went to the UN a couple years ago and bragged about how he couldn't go into restaurants in New York City to eat pizza because he didn't have his vaccine card. Well, U.S. Customs won't let you in without a vaccine card. So what they found out is that he had forged his vaccine card, and that's a felony in Brazil. So they went to this guy, Murillo Cid, and then they found out Murillo Cid, who was his top military order, had also taken Rolex watches illegally obtained from the Saudis and sold them at pawn shops in the suburbs of Philly. Totally normal thing for a dictator to do. Work the pawn shops of Philly. So, they got this guy Murillo Cid on this, and it's like my dad always said, there's no honor among thieves. Cid snitched on everyone. And it just so happened that they Zoom recorded by accident some of the coup calls. I hear that's not best practice to do. You're not supposed to do it over Zoom if you're going to plan to assassinate someone.
That's astonishing. I mean, the fact that all this came down because the guy forged the vaccination card. I mean, wasn't like Dave Rubin bragging about that at one point?
Several times, yeah.
This is, I guess that's crazy. I didn't realize that was the sort of like inciting event in which all of this came tumbling down. And all right, let's just go back. Give us a brief recap. I don't want to go too deep into it because, but people have to understand, see this in the context of this coup that involved both kicking Dilma out of office, but also putting Lula into jail, has been like almost like this rolling coup over the course of a decade or so now, and culminated in Bolsonaro winning, which was like almost like, well, sometimes it goes too far in terms of our coups, I guess. And now he's going to end up, it seems like, in jail. Like they rolled up all it seemed like they rolled up the muscle like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago with the military. And then they came for Bolsonaro and his aides.
Oh yeah, and so let me just give a little backdrop for those that aren't familiar with Lula. Lula is the president of Brazil. He's the president from 2002 to 2010. He's the founder of the Workers' Party. And in the late 1970s, he was the head of the Auto Workers Union in Sao Paulo. Back then, you still had the dictatorship and you didn't have direct elections in Brazil. So what Lula did in the 70s was he led a series of bold strikes to shut down GM, which eventually, GM started calling the military like, hey, those factories you built, we'd really like to see them open. And so what wound up happening in this situation is that, Lula becomes president. He's out of office. They throw Dilma out of office on trumped up impeachment charges that she wasn't using money from the right accounts to pay for welfare programs and stuff like that. It was really trumped up. She was later vindicated totally on it by the Brazilian Supreme Court. And they installed this guy, Michael Temer, who was a center-right candidate in 2017. And then in 2018, Bolsonaro wins. But he only wins because they imprisoned Lula on these trumped up charges. They claim that Lula was buying a retirement condo near a beach and that he was secretly buying the penthouse. They could never prove he owned the penthouse, right? And so they threw him in jail for 18 months. His wife dies of a stroke when he gets sent to jail. They don't even let him out of jail to go to his grandfather's funeral. He fights for 18 months. They block him from running in the presidential election. Then he gets out. And in 2019, and actually this was interesting in a sign of solidarity, he gets out and the first thing he does is send a tweet to Bernie Sanders endorsing Bernie in the 2020 primary. I mean, because Bernie really stood up for him. He gets out, then he's reelected as president in 2022. And this is where they plot that they're going to assassinate him. Now, why did they think they could get away with an assassination? Because they got away with a big assassination in Rio de Janeiro. I went to college with a woman named Marielle Franco, who was a Rio City councilwoman who was assassinated in 2018. We have many friends in common and studied in the same department. And Marielle was machine gunned in the streets. She was in charge of investigating police violence in Brazil. To put police violence in perspective, in 2018, the year Marielle Franco was killed, there were 1,200 people killed by police in all the United States. Country of over 300 million, 1,200. In Rio de Janeiro in 2018, there were 1,600 people killed by the police in a city of 9 million. And she was in charge of investigating it. And so for about 5 years, there was this huge fight because the connections between Bolsonaro's people and the gunmen were surreal. They lived in the same apartment complex. Their children had dated. They were known to socialize. One time, the gunman had his leg blown off in some crazy drug deal, and Bolsonaro got him a free prosthetic leg. So the connections there were quite deep. And what we're seeing now, it took 5 years of protests in the streets around Marielle Franco's case to figure out, to get justice. And it only happened when Lula came in and got the Brazilian FBI to look into it. To get justice, and this past March, the head of the Rio de Janeiro police chief was arrested for planning the assassination, along with a congressman and his younger brother, who was a state official in Rio de Janeiro. So they got away with that for 5 or 6 years. And now we know that the police chief who plotted the assassination of Marielle Franco was appointed the day before the assassination by Braga Neto, who was Bolsonaro's vice presidential pick, who it just turns out they also plotted how to assassinate Lula at his house. Small world, right? And so there was a feeling they could. But, you know, the anger over the assassination of Marielle Franco, the protests that went on for almost 6 years, they caught the killers this March. Those protests that went on really created a sense that they weren't going to let these killers hide. They weren't going to let them get away with the assassination of Marielle Franco, and they were going to look deeper into this. And part of it that I think got them in trouble was that they tried multiple times to assassinate the Supreme Court justice who was investigating. Alexandre Guimarães, who's nicknamed in Brazil Xandão because he's a pretty tough character. And, you know, basically the right wing of the Brazilian right has been decapitated by this move if they go to jail. And you look at what Merrick Garland did in retrospect, it's quite glaring, you know?
It's stunning. I mean, I guess, you know, on some level, that's the benefit of having a judiciary that has some investigative abilities, because it's less, I guess, politicized on some level, which is, again, I want to make it clear, not to in any way apologize for Merrick Garland's complete ineptness, or I don't even know if ineptness is the right word. I mean, just complete disinterest in actually pursuing the one thing that apparently was, you know, supposedly one of the most important things to us, right? The protection of our democratic institutions. It's a fascinating story, Mike, and we will link in the podcast, too, to not only the Payday Report, which I would encourage everybody to read. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on the union front now with what ultimately could be a much more hostile environment for unions coming off of the last fiscal year, where the number of union petitions to start with something like 3,200, maybe it was, like the highest in 50 years, and double from where it was in 2021. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And I will be reading the Payday Report often to find out what's happening in that regard. We'll also link to late Michael Brooks' interview with Lula, which took place shortly after Lula was out of prison. So we'll check that out. But Mike Elk, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Fascinating story.
Thanks for having on, and hope folks go to paydayreport.com and sign up.
Yep. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. We will put that link again for the Payday Report and for Michael's interview with Lula. Michael was a big advocate for Lula and kept his story. One of the few journalists in this country who was really keeping what was going on with Lula in the forefront.
It's like the early hobby horse for TMBS.
So we will put a link to that as well. All right, quick break. When we come back, Jacob Silverman, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. Also a writer at the AM Quickie, available at amquickie.com. Free 3 days a week, paid 5 days a week if you want. But check out the free version. And he'll be here to talk to us about Donald Trump's appointment of a hedge fund billionaire for Treasury Secretary. And but also who's going to get Commerce? This guy Lutnick, who's a big crypto. There's a lot of crypto money in the Trump administration, and frankly, there's a lot of crypto money now at the head of the Senate, Democratic Senate campaign
Gillibrand
committee. So we'll talk to Jacob Silverman about that in just a moment. Quick break. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Jacob Silverman, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. Also a writer at the AM Quickie, amquickie.com. Quick headlines every day. Jacob, welcome back. I think since the last time you were on the program, maybe it was to talk about the book. I can't remember. It seems like all these guys took all that money in this Bitcoin run and converted it into politicians and essentially just basically bought politicians with it.
They were the second biggest spender of the crypto industry in this election cycle after, I think, oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for a lot of it, they were, neck and neck. And Fair Shake, the main crypto pack, was raised something like $140 million. Despite the industry not really doing very well in the last couple of years or really becoming very useful to the general public, they have more money than ever to spend on politics.
And let's just, sort of like baseline that comment you just made, because the idea with cryptocurrency was that it was going to be a currency. And now it just seems like, and to be fair, if we had taken crypto, if we had taken Bitcoin, like somebody wanted us to like 10, 12 years ago for our membership, I don't know how much we would have, but it would be worth a lot of money. But also, if my mother had not thrown out my baseball cards and the first edition of Firestorm, which I had as a DC comic, that would also be worth a lot of money, right? I mean, it's not a currency, but it's a speculative commodity.
Yeah.
Is it even a commodity, or is it more like just like a collectible?
Well, the CFTC calls it a commodity for regulatory purposes, but the economic argument I've heard is that it's not an input like oil or gas or corn or things that we normally think of as commodities. You can't turn it into something else or use it for any purpose besides really the speculation that you're talking about.
Well, to be fair, you could use it for money laundering.
Drugs.
And that turns out to be it's one real use case. I mean, despite what there are lots of ways that the crypto industry denies this or says, oh, of course, the US dollar is used for lots of money laundering. But the main use case still for crypto is that it's incredibly useful for transporting value across borders for money launderers, drug cartels, and groups like that.
Particularly Tether, right? Particularly
yes.
to just...
What is Tether?
Well, I mean, Tether, isn't that the cryptocurrency that is the shadiest? And it's also the one that Cantor Fitzgerald has the greatest amount of holdings in, and now he's going to be our,
tell us about
our
Tether.
Commerce Secretary.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Tether, it's sort of like the company that makes the crypto tokens that kind of act like the chips at the casino. And one way of thinking about it is what if one company made the chips used at every casino in Vegas? So the main token that they distribute is called Tether or USDT. It's pegged to the dollar. It's called a stable coin. So it's supposed to stay at this $1 peg. And it's sort of like a digital dollar. I mean, some people in law enforcement think that it actually is counterfeiting the dollar by making this sort of digital fake dollar. And so large institutional investors or perhaps other shady people we don't really know about buy large quantities of Tether, supposedly using US dollars from the company, and then sell it into the market. And a lot of people use Tether, whether it's to launder money or to use it to buy other crypto on exchanges, because it's a lot easier to move it around from exchange to exchange or to make transactions with it than it is to try to connect your legitimate bank account.
But Jacob, I was told that cryptocurrency is a way to combat the inherent volatility of the United States dollar and fiat currency. Why would you need a cryptocurrency that's tethered to the price of the US dollar if that were the case?
Well, the new line from the crypto industry, especially as you have Howard Lutnick, who is from Cantor Fitzgerald, which is the big US sort of financial partner of Tether. And the new line is that Tether actually perpetuates dollar hegemony, where they're actually extending the usage of the dollar into other places, especially, those other places tend to be countries with high inflation or unstable monetary systems, and places where cartels and terrorists and kind of other bad actors work. or sanctions evaders, whoever else. So I don't know if we want the dollar extended to those places, much less being distributed by a private company that is based out of the Caribbean, whose founder hasn't really been seen in public in years. It's also banned from doing business in the state of New York. One thing that I've really wondered about actually is how can Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald do all this work with Tether? They're now invested in the company. They own a piece of Tether. They manage billions of dollars in treasury funds for them. But how can they do that if this company is supposed to be banned by the New York AG from doing business here in New York?
So wait a second. Tether is pegged to the US dollar. It is a digital currency. How is that? I mean, I get, I'm open to being mocked because I don't fully understand this, but how is that conceptually different than, like, I don't know, Venmo? Like, I mean, Venmo, I understand is a process, but I'm not actually, if I Venmo Emma 10 US dollars, I'm not actually handing her 10 physical dollars. I've got Venmo has some type of representation of some Venmo currency that is pegged to the US dollar, and they just happen to call it the US dollar, and they give it to Emma, and they take, a little cut for the service of me transferring that. How is Tether different?
Well, with Venmo, it's regulated in the United States, and there's some assurance that when you send money, that actually is going to happen, and that's connected to real dollars to your real bank account. Tether, there's a widespread belief, and it's been cited and proven in some court cases, that in the past they've printed or minted Tether without actually having the dollars backing it. So if you have an offshore money printer, I mean, the temptation is to just print money. They claim that every time they mint $1 billion worth of Tether, which they do a few times a month, that someone is giving them $1 billion real US dollars, and they have that in the bank, so that if anyone wants to redeem Tether, they can give back the US dollar. So I think the real difference here is you have no guarantee that there's actually any money behind this, and it's just this parallel offshore unregulated.
But wait. But how is this different than basically, in terms of like liability and risk factor? How is it different than like all of these securities that we created in 2008 that were, loans from banks? I mean, it's like a loan from a bank when it's not dollar for dollar in the bank. Like, their capital requirements are 10% of whatever it is that they're out there loaning. So they are loaning $100 and they only have 10 actual dollars in the bank. Mm-hmm. And, the capital requirements was a big issue in the financial crisis. With Tether, they're saying we've got $100 in the bank, but we don't really have to prove it to anybody, and we're not regulated, so there's no regulators coming by to see, because it's possible they have no monies in the bank.
Yeah, they claim to be very profitable. I mean, they claim to be one of the most profitable companies in the world. It's gotten a little absurd. And it's often called like a shadow bank, or sort of basically the unofficial bank for the crypto industry. I mean, everything that we're seeing in the last year, the run up in Bitcoin, is because of Tether. I mean, this is widely believed and has been studied to juice the overall crypto market and the Bitcoin market especially. It's the most widely traded cryptocurrency. So everything you've seen over with crypto in the last year has been because of this company that has already been fined tens of millions of dollars by U.S. regulators. That's being investigated all over the world, and now has a voice in the White House.
Can you explain to me? We should say, I mean, you keep talking about Cantor Fitzgerald and this guy Lutnick. The reason why it's particularly relevant is he's now the Commerce Secretary.
That's right. Apparently, also he's going to have some authority over the U.S. Trade Office, but I'm not as familiar with that. But he lost out to be Treasury Secretary. I think that was a scary proposition for a lot of people. I mean, the cryptofication of the Trump administration is well underway, but that would have been sort of another level, that a guy connected with a company that facilitates money laundering all over the world was going to be Treasury Secretary.
Let's get to some of the other instances of crypto money. I mean, everybody, I think hopefully this audience is aware that like something like $35 million went into Sherrod Brown's race to defeat Sherrod Brown from a crypto consortium, I guess. I want to talk about what they want for their money, essentially. But before we get there, what's a meme coin? Like, what's a meme coin? I don't understand what that is. How are there so many? There seems to be like hundreds of meme coins, and I'm being told on Instagram that if I don't get in on this right now with the bust boom cycle, I'm losing out on 100x opportunity. Like, what is a meme coin?
Sure. These are for the true degenerates, as they happily call themselves. So a meme coin is like, think a degree or two lower than a penny stock. This is just a crypto token that's made in relation to some event or meme going around online, like maybe that Peanut the squirrel that got put down a few weeks ago, and that there were meme coins connected to that. And then people try to hype them on social media or manipulate the market usually and try to 100x on something that's really worthless, and then get out as quick as they can before it all collapses within a day or two usually.
So the key is you want to be very close to the pump and dumper, essentially, of these things. And it's baseball cards. It sounds like it's like totally baseball cards with a little bit more volatility.
Yeah, and at least Juan Soto puts up a real season of good numbers and then has a baseball card reflecting that. I mean, this is like connected to nothing, like something that would go through your Twitter timeline.
But dude,
you never
if like
again.
the Peanut the squirrel gets like a million likes, that meme coin's gonna be really through the roof.
You should launch your own, maybe. We could have a vertically integrated meme and meme coin operation here.
We should actually think about that. Oh my God.
You have to be the pumper to actually make some money off this, or be very close to them, as you said.
There has to be a lot. I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity not to be doing like a Trump meme coin. I mean, he's doing his, right? But why can't we also do like a Trump meme coin?
We feel badly about scamming human beings.
Well, let's just slow down for a second, because let's walk through this just for the sake of argument. Let's say we were to issue a Trump meme coin, right? Like, and the image would be like Trump with like, I don't know, Joe Rogan's body.
Yeah.
And Trump's head. And we put it out. I don't know how we get it onto a market, but we get everybody in the Majority Report audience to buy it. And but we send out emails saying like, okay, if your last name is A to F, you buy it on this day. If your last name's F to M, you buy it on this day, et cetera, et cetera. And so that we slowly tick it up. And then we release it into like the meme coin world, where I imagine there's a lot of Trump fans. The thing takes off and we send out the email, sell. And like this whole scheme is like part trading places.
Right. This is like your ultimate fantasy.
Is that what we're talking? Like, would that work? How would we go about that?
Depends on your definition of work. I mean, someone will be left holding the bag.
No, I know, but it wouldn't be people that we care about.
Yeah, ideally, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Well,
your one concern may be that you asked earlier, what do these people want? I mean, they're already starting to get some of it. The SEC might be more inclined to go after a progressive meme coin pump and dumper than the MAGA alternative, I think.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the point, right? I mean, let's also be clear here. Everything that we've been talking about is completely unregulated. Like, there is no, is there any, like the scheme I just talked about, is there a regulatory agency right now, today, that would maybe come after me for that? Obviously I've just articulated the ideas. It's like, pump and dump, but even still, like, is there somebody who's going to come after you for a pump and dump, like for, that Manny Soda baseball card? But clearly what they want is to get rid of all the regulations. They go after Sherrod Brown on the banking committee. They are talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, completely gutting it in a way that they didn't even gut it last time. I mean, is that basically the name of the game? Who's been regulating this now? Who wants to, and who's not going to be able to over the next 4 years?
Well, there's been a long time sort of turf war between the CFTC and the SEC over who should really regulate crypto. The CFTC has tried to say that Bitcoin is a commodity. And so each agency has done some regulatory enforcement. The thing is, actually, over the last 4 years, especially, the SEC under Gary Gensler has done some of the kind of things that you're sort of referring to. Like if we did that kind of scam, let's say if we, scam people out of a couple $1 million, the SEC might come in and charge.
Let's not use the word scam. All right. Because I just want to say, like, if we do that type of project,
there have been cases, especially with influencers and celebrities, people not like us at all, but like, the Paul brothers and even Kim Kardashian, where they have gotten dinged for fraud or for sort of related financial crimes, usually in a civil lawsuit, and then they settle with the SEC. I mean, there has been some of this enforcement going on. It's been a little scattered, and the crypto industry hates it, and they don't accept it. They don't even accept that existing securities and financial regulations might actually apply to the crypto industry with some modern interpretations. They want all of that to end, and I think they expect that to end because Gensler's already announced that he's resigning.
Well, wait. One more question. I'm sorry, because this is both like sort of an academic and perhaps business plan. But in what I laid out about the meme coin, how is what actual meme coin people do any different than what I just laid out?
It's not really. I mean, and that's why I think actually the industry cries, "Oh, that you're selectively enforcing," but the fact is there's so many cases in which the SEC can go after people that the enforcement becomes just sort of selective by default, because there's a lot of that stuff going on and a lot of stuff that could be called fraud or deceptive in some way.
Who's facilitating that? Like, I mean, if I wanted to shut the entire industry down of meme coins, like would I need to pass a law and say that this is wrong? But they're going to argue like you can sell anything. There's no, it just so happens that we're trying to convince people that Cabbage Patch dolls should be sort of like, like a currency, sort of.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I talk to say the existing laws and regulations are generally expansive enough to cover this stuff. It's the industry that claims, no, we need new laws and we need to write them in order to be properly regulated. And I think also when you look at an industry like crypto, when people, whether it's big companies like FTX or individual scammers break the law, they are usually breaking existing laws around fraud or, banking fraud or defrauding investors or wire fraud. It's not really like you don't need to invent kind of crypto crime and put it on the books in order to get some of these people. The other way in which some of this stuff gets tamped down is by kind of regulating access to the U.S. banking system. I mean, one thing that FTX benefited from was they had these secret bank accounts and interests in, they own part of a bank too in Washington State because they really needed access to the U.S. banking system. So if you go after kind of the banking intermediaries or try to regulate that with some sophistication and seriousness, then you can kind of contain the problem to, scammers overseas or operating out of foreign jurisdictions.
But isn't that what Gillibrand was trying to do? And I forget who the Republican that she was working with.
I think Loomis.
Loomis, yeah. To formalize it, right? If you regulate it, then that means that this isn't going to be some scam that goes by the wayside. This is going to be a part of our banking system. And that brings me back to Cantor Fitzgerald, like their holdings with Tether. There's a lot of big banks in states like New York, which Gillibrand represents, that have a lot of holdings in crypto, and they would benefit from regulating it as opposed to making this kind of crap illegal, which it should be.
Yeah, and I think now they've discovered, I mean, a lot of the big banks used to be sort of a little more hands-off or would have these pilot projects and stuff like that, but now they're, with the passage of the ETFs, the Bitcoin ETFs, these funds in which you can basically, you buy exposure to the cryptocurrency, but you're not actually buying the currency, the bank is buying it. That has really opened up the market to a lot of mainstream money, to Wall Street cash, because of course the big Wall Street firms can earn fees on this stuff. So they might not even be risking that much of their own money, but they can earn those kinds of management fees. And the banks may not truly believe in crypto, but they can still sell those kind of complex financial products around it that earn them the kind of profits they're looking for.
What can Lutnick do as Commerce Secretary that, I guess, what's he going to try and do? Because he's trying to like build up this industry, I guess, or sector, or protect it from, I mean, they basically want to create some type of like zone of protection. It feels like it's almost like some weird empowerment zone where they get to like just come up with any crazy idea that can just generate cash for themselves. How can he do that as Commerce Secretary, A, and B, let's just say they get away with this outside of the fact that they're scamming people, which I don't want to minimize, right? Because a lot of people like, oh, this is, how do I not get rich? When all this like getting rich is going on there, is there any threat to the financial system outside of the hoarding of money that will take place there and maybe the distortions it'll create in other investment vehicles? But speak to that. But outside of that, is there like any type of underlying threat? I mean, I guess theoretically, if mainstream banks start getting involved in this because they feel like they have to, that's where we start to see a danger. Yeah.
Very much so. And that was the sense of relief that actually people felt in 2022 when FTX blew up and a number of other multi-billion-dollar frauds that aren't talked about as much fell apart. And the industry went into this brief crypto winter, as they call it. It really was mostly confined to the crypto industry, some venture capitalists, and unfortunately a couple retirement funds public retirement funds that had invested in crypto. But now it's pumped up the bubble again, and you have this mainstream banking exposure and potentially more pension funds buying in again. And that really, I think, is what scares crypto skeptics or people on the regulatory side, is that you have this kind of potential contagion, and that when it blows up again because the fundamentals aren't there and there's a lot of fraud there, then it's going to spill over into the regular banking system and perhaps cause a recession or some greater calamity. As for what Lutnick can do, I mean, I think in some ways people might think that he's been saved from some of his worst impulses by being consigned to Treasury, but in some ways it doesn't really matter what he can do at Commerce.
You mean, right?
I'm sorry, been sent over to Commerce. I think in some ways it doesn't really matter what he can do there because the overall administration is pretty much all in on crypto. I mean, the Treasury pick, I think, is a traditional Wall Street guy, and seems pretty well liked there. But across the board, I think they're going to be looking to end the investigations from the DOJ, to loosen the SEC regulations, and it'll touch sort of every department where they can. But there's no one really I see in the administration or at the cabinet level who's going to oppose any of this stuff.
And it doesn't look like there's anybody in the Senate either, for that matter.
Not really.
Right. And I think, the problem is, for one thing, well, of course, the Democrats don't have a majority, but they've never been on a united front with regards to crypto, especially, some of the people in the House, like Richie Torres, who are very well compensated by the crypto industry. And
oh, wow.
Really? Oh. And I think, the fact that Democrats haven't been able to unite around this kind of consumer protection idea that should come pretty naturally to them, that people like Elizabeth Warren tout, has made it very problematic and able for the crypto industry to divide and conquer a little bit in Congress.
Yeah, having also millions and millions of dollars that you've earned by investing in a meme coin or a glorified Cabbage Patch doll, that money has an impact, right? I mean, easy come, easy go, and it also, you've set up essentially a mechanism to make more money as long as there's no rules associated with it. As long as we make fraud legal.
It does feel like, we're headed towards this kleptocratic era where financial crimes will be illegal and encouraged. And the way one thing that I've really taken note of is the fact that in 2022, Sam Bankman-Fried was trying to do a lot of the stuff that Republicans are on the verge of accomplishing right now, and the crypto industry is on the verge of accomplishing, the summer of 2022. Then, of course, he went down for fraud and went to prison. But they basically rebooted his entire political influence program, and now that Trump is going to be in the White House, they're going to be able to accomplish the same thing. So there's a certain kind of uncomfortable staying power with the industry that, one set of moguls might fade away, but you have the other ones here.
I mean, he's got to be thinking, like, if I could have just held on for another 15 months everything I'm doing would be legal by then, right?
Yes, and there are even people, I mean, I don't think he'll ever get pardoned, but there are sort of people on the MAGA side of the crypto spectrum who are probably going to get pardoned. And they've even talked about pardoning the Silk Road guy, Ross Ulbricht. So, if he had played his cards a little differently or waited a little longer and not been so greedy, he might have survived this thing.
Serious Business on the IM just said a 13-year-old streamer named Skid, I guess, with a $sign, just pulled a pump and dump on his audience and made 30 grand.
That's low stakes stuff. You can't sell out your audience.
Yeah, but I mean, for a 13-year-old, I feel like that shows a lot of like grit and
it's a lot more than allowance.
I mean, read the rest of the IM. He did the rug pull on camera and celebrated.
Yeah.
I mean, after scamming his audience, is this who we want to turn into? Is this who Trump is turning us into, Sam?
He'll be back, I'm sure, with another one.
Well, I don't think we would do it per se. We would just create some 13-year-old streamer to do it. And Jacob, I mean, you're really pretty well situated to come up with something. That's the memoir, right?
I could be a patsy for some kind of scheme.
Never mind the patsy. I mean, you should be, you're going to...
He wants to put you on the front lines. And I'm glad this is what came out of this conversation, is Sam wants to get in on...
I mean, but this is the mainstreaming of like a scam economy, it seems like. And the reason why they spent all this money had nothing to do with, I want this policy or I want that policy. They just want all the laws and regulations, which are laws and criminal and civil, to be rolled back, essentially, so that there's no agency that's responsible for coming after them, or that to the extent that they can get any type of law passed, it basically says you can do whatever you want, and now it's codified, so off to the races.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that's kind of troubling about the whole political influence campaign that they've run over the last year, is that they don't really believe in anything except for crypto and money and getting rich. And whatever it has to be sort of a casualty along the way, it doesn't really matter because, I mean, in the more intellectual sort of precincts of crypto, they do kind of exist. They call this the freedom to transact. They just want the freedom to move money however they want to. And sorry, you're about to have a cat go across the screen, but and they want to be able to do that.
Cat meme coin.
Yeah. They want to be able to move money because they think that's a right as important as the First Amendment. Sort of every right is downstream from the freedom to transact. And that's how some of them talk about it. The more vulgar ones just say, it's my money. I want to do what I want with it. And they don't really have political concerns beyond that.
Jesus. Well, the big problem is going to be how much banks start to wade into this, like more like vanilla banks feel like they have to do this because everybody's making money and they're not. And it's going to end up devaluing them because their competitors are going to be doing this. And then we're going to start to put the whole financial system at risk for these people who are going out and basically, modern day tulipping the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate that you can sort of see that there's going to be a rush to do all this and to, again, just pocket those fees and sell services on behalf of Wall Street. The crypto industry itself is kind of used to a very rapid and big boom and bust cycle, but this is not a kind of pattern and that we want to impose on Wall Street, which already is, a risky form of gambling.
Jacob Silverman, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. You may have to do a volume 2 soon.
Well, there'll be a little bit in my next book about some of this stuff.
All right. Also, Jacob does the AM Quickie half of the time at amquickie.com. Thanks again, Jacob. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Glad to do it.
Thank you.
We will head into the fun half. I mean, this is... I don't know what to say.
What's one way to get out of an investment that really can't ever really see fruition is have Uncle Sam be the one that helps you make the exit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be, these banks already have large holdings. with crypto.
It's one thing to have large holdings, but I think when they start to use them as like, as it starts to sort of like circulate through, I mean, look, they have all sorts of different commodities that are holding it. And a lot of people have so much money in it that I think there's a floor for these things. But again, these are just like speculative assets. And people, I assume, know the story of tulips in the late
1600s, I think.
Was it? No. It was 1600s into 1700s or 1700s into the 1800s. There was like a 40-year period.
It was starting about 1636. I mean, 1630s was when tulip mania was really hitting in the Dutch. Yep.
Okay, so and tulips became a commodity, but almost like,
basically through breeding them, we determined, we can make a whole bunch of different types of colors and stuff like that, and people went crazy for them.
Crazy for them, and then like I don't know, and then like 40 years later, people are like, it turns out it's flour.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can really get back on.
Right.
You can make a garden look nice.
Yep.
But, Cantor Fitzgerald has a $2 billion crypto financing business, like as a part of that massive.
I didn't hear it brought up, but Howard Lutnick also. People might know the Rumble, our video platform that we're currently streaming on. It used to be traded under the name Cantor Fitzgerald Acquisition Corporation number 6. It was bought by merged with Rumble. Cantor Fitzgerald Acquisition Corp number 6 to create the free speech platform we all love to get our news from.
What are our streaming numbers right now on Rumble?
We are at a whopping, let's see here, 4 people. Shout out to Pandemic Anxiety, holding it down as usual.
Thanks so much.
Just want to let our Rumble viewers know that we will be maybe releasing our new meme coin in Q1 or Q2 of 2025. And this is going to be a special meme coin. It is going to be hyper valued and but also hugely underperforming. And you want to get in on the bottom floor because it's going to give you, what we're doing is aiming for not 2x, 3x, but again, probably close to 50x or 100x. That's what we're looking for. So,
yep.
These are all just words I heard on Instagram.
And by getting on the bottom floor, we mean don't be the last fool holding the bag.
Exactly. The sooner you get in, the quicker you can get out. And so keep that in mind.
That real standard currency from U.S. denominated currency.
Exactly. I mean, I told the story. Like I found some wheat pennies. I was back in Worcester. I found in a drawer. I just grabbed some change because I was cleaning out the drawer at my dad's house, and I put it in my pocket. And I always check, coins now because Saul does a little bit of coin collection. He has this big book where he's trying to get like all 50 states of the quarters, and I look at it, and on the back of pennies now, it's the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the Lincoln Memorial, right? And,
sounds right.
But it used to be 2 pieces of wheat.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And when I was a kid, I collected coins. I did coin collections. And I guess a couple of these fell out of some books. And, the coins are 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 of these wheat pennies. And I think they're worth like $900 each.
Oh, nice. You
Oh,
should sell
really?
them.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
I
I
don't
stopped
know.
making them in 1958.
Oh, yeah, no, these are from like 1916 and 1930. And they were in my pocket. And I just took them out.
You should sell them.
I'm basically gonna keep my cat alive for another couple of weeks. All right, folks. It's your support that makes this show possible. It's gonna be such a dark era
I mean, you're
Wheat
where you're
coins to
literally
keep-
penny pinching. So-
I downloaded a book on the Dust Bowl. That's what it starts to
That's
sound
what
like.
it's
And
for?
I pinched my wheat coins together to keep my cattle alive.
I mean, we're going into like it's going to be a very strange era. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, folks. And it's going to twist people's minds a little bit to, if there's like, a million of these people on Instagram right now or TikTok or whatever with their meme coins, we're going to head into an era where it's just going to be, everything is going to be completely monetized in this way.
It's already twisted people's minds. Like
Everyone's normal still from 2016. Nobody's gone crazy or anything like that.
our social media, like the algorithms and the paid posts at the top, and like some of this stuff is just rotting. It's rotting people's brains. It really is. And it's also just the fact that like we used to have defined benefit pensions and like things where people could have more financial security, and now we've created markets and gamblified our everything. And so it also just creates this like constant state of anxiety, which things like crypto prey on, where you need money, you need to get rich, and
that's it. Is like people just want to get out, and crypto is a way to get out of this. And it's like
it's lottery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was looking at, and first of all, like you should feel sick. Like the idea that somebody could get a whole bunch of money through even a lottery system, and then like boss around service workers in their community for the rest of their lives is gross to me. But I was just looking at American Public Media did a look back at Bill Clinton's welfare reform, and about 3 more million people are in poverty when that was struck out, and about 2 million fewer are getting cash assistance. So great world we got.
Your support makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you also get the fun half. JoinTheMajorityReport.com. Also, JustCoffee.coop. They're a co-op. They take care of their suppliers. JustCoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee and hot chocolate. Use the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. Buy the Majority Report blend. I'm actually thinking like I may go to Mexico and try and find one of those things like next year. Maybe I may take
what thing?
Like one of the farms in Chiapas.
Oh, cool.
I was thinking about that.
That sounds nice. We'd all like to get
I'll
away.
never come back.
Yeah.
I gotta wait and see how my meme coin collection does.
Yeah, we'll check back in on that.
Emma, ESVN, Celtics won big last night by 2 points, but I mean.
Well, we'll get to basketball soon, but this week we're still in NFL mode.
Whatever.
So we've got, I mean, look, the Giants are the worst team in the NFL, so it's not that fun for me to talk about either. We'll talk about Saquon maybe being Offensive Player of the Year now on the Philadelphia Eagles. We will talk about the overtime thriller between the Bears and the Vikings and more. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Yeah, literary hangover. Yesterday, what I just talked about, Bill Clinton talking about.
You mean Left Reckoning, not Literary Hangover.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just on my literary hangover email. Left Reckoning, we talked about Bill Clinton in 1999 at the State of the Union saying, hey, look, welfare is over. You're welcome. And I got all these great CEOs lining up to hire all the people that are being thrown off the rolls. And we looked back at how that played out, and spoiler, not great. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning if you want to hate Bill Clinton a little bit.
All right, quick break into the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us
this? Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder, what a fucking nightmare.
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them, just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs that look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy. I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It is the fun half, ladies and gentlemen. The amazing Grando. Nice to see the MR degenerate gambling ring slowly getting built out. Emma's got sports betting. Sam has meme coin, pump and dumps. What's Matt and Bradley's plans? Gas station scratch off, high stakes bingo, betting on the horses?
No, I told you I'm principally against this sort of speculative windfall.
I haven't sports bet in real life in like maybe a year.
Rooting
6 months.
Tootin' falutin'. Can't believe I'm in the same timeline as Sam resorting to making the buffalo shit to feed his cat while crypto